Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, over the river and through the woods to Bowser's house we go? It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great, Patrick. You and I both really like The Simpsons. Been watching a lot of The Simpsons, and I kind of, I've watched the few seasons, like the handful of seasons that I really like. I've watched them on Disney Plus to death, and then recently, for whatever reason, I remembered that Futurama exists. So I have been making my way slowly through Futurama on Hulu.
I'm doing the same. I find it to be a little bit tougher just because it's got those commercials in it. Hulu, get rid of those commercials.
Yeah.
Also, real question: why isn't it on Disney Plus?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. Yeah. The dividing line between like what makes Disney Plus and what makes Hulu is so. I feel like they put The Simpsons on Disney Plus because they wanted like yet another reason for people to subscribe to Disney Plus, because there's if you're not really into Star Wars, Marvel, or Disney, there's not a ton necessarily on Disney Plus for you. And so having like The Simpsons probably gets people who normally like wouldn't get Disney Plus otherwise.
Yeah, it is true, because it's not like there's a ton of just like Fox TV shows or whatever on there.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it feels like it would be a goldmine if they were just like, yeah, put. But then they probably wouldn't want to put like Family Guy up there, right?
Yeah,
but, like,
exactly.
Futurama and like Bob's Burgers. Like, why isn't Bob's Burgers up there?
It's such a weird line. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't at all. Speaking of lines that don't make any sense, would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch? This is a game about, Mark, I don't think we've talked enough about what Sonic Forces actually is for people to appreciate how bizarre it is that you can borrow my copy. It's a game about the Sonic the Hedgehog characters like enacting global rebellion against a fascistic Eggman. It's nuts. You get to play as your own rebellious character that you create. It's a weird little animal. I made mine a bird. I don't like him. If you'd like to borrow my copy of this game, you can. All you gotta do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And speaking of a weird little bird, you may accidentally get the copy of Untitled Goose Game because he is now thrown in there as a spoiler. You have no control over which game you get. I have control over which one I send to you, but I will not be swayed by your emails or your pleas to get one game or the other. Get on the list or don't, but I urge you to get on the list.
It, of course, remains the perfect program.
I mean, absolutely. Mark, we are coming into the Thanksgiving holiday, and so I think we should screw around no further, get down to the serious business of the day, and discuss some Nintendo family Thanksgiving celebrations. All right, so this is a good excuse for some goofy times. You and me, we're going to lay out a scenario within the universe of Nintendo, featuring Nintendo characters. We're going to figure out how their Thanksgiving is going to work. Maybe who's doing the cooking, who's sitting with who gets relegated to the kids' table, so that's basically how this is going to go. We've got a couple scenarios laid out. I've got a couple groups of characters. Now, Mark, these groups, sometimes they make a lot of sense. You're like, these characters would spend time together, or these characters have spent time together. But sometimes these groups, not. Sometimes not that.
But I think like that's very fitting, because I don't know about you, but over the course of my life, I have had Thanksgiving where you're like, yes, this like group of people makes sense. They are all my friends. We are hanging out, and then other times you're like,
yes,
this is a weird amalgamation of people that in normal circumstances would not be hanging out together, and yet here we are in somebody's studio apartment enjoying Thanksgiving dinner.
There's that. There's also like, oh yeah, my parents couldn't make it to Thanksgiving this year, so we're with my aunt and uncle and their weird conservative friends. And then there's also the time where it's like, oh yeah, Doug wasn't gonna go home for Thanksgiving because he lives in Portland, and like, so he just stayed and came to our family Thanksgiving. So Doug is just there, and he's like the only outside. So yeah, I think it is fine and in the spirit of a true Thanksgiving, and also in the spirit of a true Thanksgiving, we reserve the right to add any characters and any number of characters to any of these groups at any time. We can be like just about ready to seat everyone and say they're going to have a nice, pleasant dinner, and then knock, knock, knock. Here come 3 more people, and we have to deal with them too. Mark, does that sound fair? Does that sound true?
It does sound, yeah. It's like these are frighteningly real scenarios, but with Nintendo characters.
Yes, absolutely. And we're sort of doing this because obviously we're coming up to Thanksgiving. And for a lot of people, that's going to look different than it normally does.
It's going to be a weird Thanksgiving.
It's going to be a totally weird Thanksgiving. I don't have any plans to see anyone except the woman I live with, and that's what's going to be, and that's fine. And so I'm thinking that we are going to either watch a bunch of movies or like play some video games or something. So like that's what this is. We're getting like into the spirit of embracing the sort of parasocial, non-social nature of our video gaming habits and our connection to Nintendo characters. Have I justified it too much, Mark?
I think just enough. Should we
Yeah.
get into the groupings of characters?
Sure. So the groupings of characters, they don't have names. Would you like me to just say who is in each group of characters?
Yeah, let's just run it down.
Okay, so group number 1 has 3 guests. 3. Donkey Kong, Tom Nook, and Baby Daisy.
Perfect.
Group number 2 has 4 guests. And this one feels like there's going to be a little bit of friction here. The first character is Ingo from Ocarina of Time, the crooked rancher who ends up taking over Malon and Talon's ranch. Dr. Jones, Mike Jones' uncle from Star Tropics, Yoshi, and Kirby.
That is a good group.
That's it. Look,
it's an intriguing group.
It's an intriguing group. Yes, it's half trouble, and maybe it's all trouble.
It might be all trouble.
It might be all trouble, but half of that trouble is going to eat everything on that table twice. Group number 3 has 4 guests. They are Drago from Ring Fit Adventure, King DDD, Brittany from Pikmin 3, so she's one of the little Olimar-like guys, and Mayor Pauline, being graced by the presence of the mayor of New Donk City. Group number 4 is 3 guests. This is straightforward. Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri from Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Group number 5, this has 5 guests. See if you can catch the theme. They are Hestu from Breath of the Wild. That's the Korok, the giant Korok dancing man with the maracas. Mr. Right from Link's Awakening, who has the pen pal who is a goat. Linnebeck from the Phantom Hourglass. Agatha from Twilight Princess. And Madame Couture from Triforce Heroes.
It's a good group. What is the?
It's a good group.
Yeah.
They're all Zelda characters.
Oh, they're all Zelda characters.
And all from different games. And the final group, Group 6, starts off with a little theme and then goes nuts with it. There are five characters in Group 6. Rusty from Rusty's Real Deal Baseball. The Bunny from Nintendo Badge Arcade. Captain Toad, Wart, and Fawful from the Mario and Luigi RPGs.
Oh, this is good. You know what? I am worried, not for us, but I'm worried for the world that we might be the only podcast that's still talking about Rusty from Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, because I don't think that character gets enough love.
It's a real shame. Oh, and the Bunny. Frankly, both of these characters have been forgotten to the dustbin of Nintendo history, and we will not allow that. We will not allow them to slide into obscurity.
Yeah,
they're
important. Wart's in there too. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and Fawful. Like, look, if I'm picking groups of characters, we're gonna get some obscure. Just be glad Stanley the Bugman from Donkey Kong 3 isn't in here, okay? Or the scientist from Gyromite. God, I used them in something recently, and I can't even remember what his name is. Anyway, so the first Thanksgiving scenario that we are positing is scenario number one. Waluigi's studio apartment. He has 6 folding chairs and an office chair, and 3 TV trays that he's going to squeeze together to make a makeshift table.
This feels so real to life. I have definitely been to this Thanksgiving
Yes.
before.
I mean, this is a Thanksgiving that, except with fewer folding chairs that,
Yeah, like
that
where
I've put on.
where did Waluigi get 6 folding chairs? I don't know for sure that we want to know. I think he definitely like either scavenged or he stole them from a church.
I mean, he probably stole them from a church. I think it is possible that he is also like doing some part-time work with an events company, and he just like took them home
He
for the
totally,
weekend.
yeah, I could definitely see Waluigi like catering, like
Yeah.
he, like
Yeah, that's right. Waluigi's a part-time caterer. Okay, so while Waluigi is there, should we come up with? Oh no, okay. So and there's room for 6 other people, right? Shall we generate randomly which one of these groups is going to be attending?
yeah. Let's start there.
Okay.
Kind of feel. I mean, I guess it depends on what group it is, but I kind of feel bad for whoever. Actually, I shouldn't be so negative. Maybe this turns out to be a great Thanksgiving.
I mean, I have had Thanksgivings like this that have turned out to be okay. All right, group number 4 is attending, which, oh man. Okay, we're going to have to pad this one out a little bit because so far the 3 guests that Waluigi has invited to his Thanksgiving dinner are Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri
Do you know what? I actually think
from Fire Emblem 3
I
Houses.
actually think that this is not a bad start for people who are going to be at Waluigi's Thanksgiving. Like why they're there, I'm not entirely sure. I could see that like all 3 of the okay. I think it's very possible.
Hold on. We need to establish first: is this them before the time jump or after the time jump? Because their
that's a really
selves
good
are
point.
so different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it should be before,
Ah,
right?
that was my instinct too. And the reason I was going to go with that is because if it is true, as we are potentially positing, that Waluigi
Yes.
is a part-time caterer, and I think like this is not outside of the realm of possibility to me because we know that something is up with Waluigi. He is not truly evil. It's like put upon evil.
Yes.
And so I could totally
Yeah, it's an affectation.
yes. And so I could
Yes.
I think he could totally have just like a average everyday like job, and then he also has this like cosplay as like a villain. And so if it is true that he has a catering company, then in these like high school job age, Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri could totally be waiters at his.
Oh,
And
that's
so that's how
interesting.
they know each other, and they kind of feel bad for Waluigi because he's just going to spend Thanksgiving by himself. So he's like, oh yeah, they're like, we're going to go to a second Thanksgiving. Maybe this is their second Thanksgiving, but they're,
Yep.
they're like, yeah, we're going to show up for our boss because he's the one who like, they pity him a little bit. Everybody pities Waluigi a little bit.
Okay, so that's a good scenario, but I wonder if it isn't that Waluigi's catering company, which again it's not a catering company that he owns. He
Right,
works for
right.
it.
Yes,
right?
yeah. That is an important point.
That they were catering an event at Garrick Mach Monastery. And that's how Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri met him in the first place. We're like, what's up with this tall, gangly guy? We all know from playing Fire Emblem 3 Houses that everyone is drawn to the tall, gangly weirdos all the time. And so they like struck up a conversation with him and then, hatched this plan to have their like sort of second Thanksgiving at Waluigi's house. Mark, do you think there's anyone else in attendance? Like maybe anyone else from Fire Emblem 3 Houses, or maybe anyone from Waluigi's world, or possibly anyone else that works at this catering company that we've now established and is absolutely canon?
Who else in the Nintendo universe would have like a job / part-time gig at a catering company? I think that Slippy Toad might.
Slippy Toad definitely might. So I would say that he he's not so much on the catering side, but he is in like the event planning. He's the one who will like set up your projector and like the PowerPoint, right? As you're going to do like a slideshow that like plays during the like father-daughter dance or whatever,
Right.
right? So Slippy was definitely there. Yeah, I think Slippy for sure is at this. And he probably shows up early, right, to like help Waluigi.
He shows up early, and he's like oblivious to the awkwardness of the rest of the event.
Right, right. And Waluigi wants this to go well.
It's
right?
so
like,
important to him. Because he pretends that he doesn't care, but he cares so deeply.
Right, so deeply. So okay, he's got Slippy there because Slippy's his boy, right? They're bros.
Well, and
Does he
also
invite-
like by comparison, because look, you want Edelgard, you want Claude, you want Dimitri to think that you are super cool, and by comparison, like I don't know if it'll work, but I think Waluigi thinks like, oh, if I have Slippy around, I will look cooler by comparison. I don't know that that's true, but I think that's what he's hoping.
So I think Waluigi. I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right that he's playing this sort of like game of social chess here, right? He's trying to position himself as better than someone at least. But I think he's also got to, and he probably lured Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri there by saying that someone else is going to be in attendance. And I don't know if this person will actually be there or not, but it has to be someone with status. Who do we think Waluigi could promise will be there who might not actually end up being there?
My first thought is Wario, because I think he has some connection to Wario. Like he's able to get a hold of him. And I think whether Wario shows up,
but he's got to like DM him on Twitter.
yeah, exactly. They're friends on Instagram, so he can like,
right.
he can send him a message. But he's not able to call him. And I think for Waluigi, if Wario shows up, like I think either way, it is bad news for him. I think if Wario doesn't show up, then like Edelgard and Claude and Dimitri are like, oh, clearly he doesn't have the connections he says he does. If Wario does show up, he's like the real deal, and he's the real like smelly motorcycle riding deal,
right?
And that Waluigi will like be pale in comparison to.
But like part of what makes him so intriguing is that he is also this like world-renowned treasure hunter / greed monster, right? So like everyone will want to hear his tales of. Yeah, I mean, I just imagine him as like a fat, stinky Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone wants to spend time with him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good. Yeah, I mean that's perfect. That really is what Wario is.
Okay, so the one thing that we are missing here is, and I guess maybe the catering plays into this, but who is preparing the food? Waluigi has one more chair that he could fill if he wants to invite someone and like trick them into making food. Otherwise, he's got to do it, like possibly with Slippy's help, but like maybe not. I feel like he's gonna need some help. Do you have any thoughts there?
Do you think he could get Roy to show up?
Do you think Roy is gonna do any work, or
I don't
Roy seems too cool to me?
Okay, because I was gonna say I don't know that he's gonna. Here's what I think. This is what I think we need to find, and maybe Roy is not the right person. But what I think we need to find is somebody who is going to bring food. They are that responsible, but it's not like it is. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is what they picked up at the grocery store. Like they were like, I'm going to the grocery store. I'm grabbing
to the hot bar.
Yeah,
sure.
like whatever.
Yeah.
But like I will show up with food, but like I'm not making this myself.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. What if on Waluigi's way out of Garreg Mach Monastery on the day that he catered whatever event, he runs into Anna the merchant, who has a well-established history of buying and selling things. She can go to the market, she can get a good deal, and then just sort of drop all the foodstuffs in Wario's lap, and Wario's like, great, I know how to put this in some chafing dishes and serve it warm.
But then does she stick around? Is she like is she also there, or is she just like
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
She may be there like being paid for it on the sly. Like she's always looking for, a hustle, right? And I don't think Waluigi is above paying for friends, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think like with this group of people, this is probably not a bad time. Like I think they get plastered. I think there is so much alcohol being consumed.
you know who brings? So they don't even Waluigi doesn't think it's going to be a like boozy bacchanalia, but Claude brings wine.
Yeah, the three head of like the houses, like Edelgard, Claude,
Yes.
and Dimitri can put it down, no question.
100%. Who do you think is the best drinker among
think-
Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri?
I think it's probably Edelgard.
I was gonna say Dimitri because he's like a Viking almost, right?
He definitely
will
after,
be. He
after
will
the
be.
time jump, he turns very grizzled. But I think like I actually like the symmetry of it being Edelgard, who's like good at it now, because then like Dimitri
Yes.
later is like
He'll catch up later.
exactly yeah.
So I think at some point, Edelgard and Wario's got to show up, right? He shows
Totally.
up late. But Edelgard and Wario get into a drinking contest at some point. And Edelgard outdrinks Wario.
Yeah, Edelgard definitely has like a Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark thing going for sure.
where she's like staggering and like barely able to move, and then she's like fine to talk to some Nazis afterwards.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It takes
And
2
when we're
seconds.
talking like fat, stinky Indiana Jones.
Yeah. No, I think this is perfect. All right, so the complete guest list for Waluigi's studio apartment is Waluigi himself, of course, Edelgard, Claude, and Dimitri, Slippy Toad, Wario, and Anna from Fire Emblem Three Houses. This is a good Thanksgiving. I like
good
this
Thanksgiving.
one. All right, so we are moving on, Mark, to scenario number 2. This, of course, is Bowser Jr.'s loft apartment in his newly gentrified arts district of downtown Mushroom Kingdom, which means this is a very nice apartment. It is new. Was it a furnished apartment? It's furnished, right?
I think it's furnished because I think that Bowser Jr. is probably like a trust fund Bowser, and
Yeah,
like
totally.
yeah, and so he is just getting like the furnished apartment. It's probably going to be trashed when he leaves. Like he doesn't care about the deposit, none of that.
Yeah, that's right. Move in ready. Okay. We are going to generate. Is this? Well, no. We'll generate the group. It is group number 2, which is Ingo from the Ocarina of Time, Dr. Jones from Star Tropics, Yoshi, and Kirby.
Okay.
So, we have not established how many people Bowser Jr.'s loft can seat. How many people it can reasonably expected to eat here. But I think we probably have room for another like 2 to 3 more guests if we want them. I could also see Bowser Jr. trying to really do like an exclusive sort of thing, right? Like none of these other characters have connections to each other, so it's almost like he went through and like picked influential people in different spheres, right?
Yeah. So, I wonder if this is like his group, because it's a pretty eclectic group, right? It has like one minor villain, one respected archaeologist, and then Yoshi and Kirby. And so
Right.
I wonder if in my head initially, Bowser Jr. was maybe like a little fratty, but I wonder if that is not the I wonder if that is not the case. I wonder if he's more like Yale, like Skull and Bones type yuppie.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a relatively straight line from like fratty to Yale, Skull and Bones, to like kind of Wall Street douchebag is sort of
Yeah,
what I'm seeing. Like he's on that curve for sure. Like a little Patrick Bateman without the multiple murders, right?
Right.
Like, so yeah, I think he's inviting powerful people, right?
Yeah. He's inviting. Yes, it's about like status, and so
Yes.
I do think there's room for more, because you do have to question like why would Yoshi or why would Kirby attend?
Well, I mean, Kirby is an interesting case because we've talked about him on multiple occasions. He's virtually a god. He's virtually a cosmic god, right? Who
He is
who
the Dr.
traverses
Manhattan
all
of
of space.
the Nintendo universe for sure.
At the very least, the Doctor Who of the of the Nintendo universe. He's some sort of doctor. But yeah, I guess Yoshi is a little bit more perplexing. Why is Yoshi there?
You could argue, and I don't
Mhm.
I don't necessarily have facts to back this up, but I don't have facts to not back this up. That Yoshi is
Great.
not that smart.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
he might have like a
for a dinosaur, or just by virtue of being a dinosaur.
I think it could. That's a great question. I think it could be both. I think he could be both by virtue of being a dinosaur, not that smart, but also among dinosaurs, like, he is not that smart. I get a little like bit of a just like dog vibe from Yoshi, where he's eager to please, and that's not a bad thing. But I don't know that he's necessarily like entirely discerning, so I don't know that he knows that Bowser Jr. is taking advantage of him.
Sure. Well, and I mean, also like Yoshi is a part of like the Bowser Jr. universe, right? Like it's maybe more of a power play, right? Because like Bowser Jr. is something that we get in Yoshi games a lot, right? Like he is a regular fixture, so they're sort of regular antagonists. So I wonder if this is part of, here's what the scenario is. This is Bowser Jr. trying to find a different way to deal with Yoshi, right? Like Yoshi for years has been a thorn in his side, stopping him from doing like whatever he's able to do. So this is where he's like, look, this is me extending not an olive branch to you.
Do you think? Yeah, because look, Bowser Jr. and Mario and the rest of it like have a history, right? And so what better way to get revenge on Mario than like turning Yoshi? And Yoshi may not be smart enough to understand what's happening, so he's just like, hey, like, I'm gonna be the peacemaker. I can be friends with everybody, not knowing that Bowser Jr. is trying to like turn Yoshi against Mario.
This is like Succession, and Yoshi is cousin Greg. This is perfect. Okay, so we just need to maybe establish a few more like high rollers, important people that Bowser Jr. can invite to his Thanksgiving to try to impress. This is all now under the guise of impressing Yoshi, right?
Right.
So Ingo, who successfully took over and mismanaged a ranch. Dr. Jones, who these are all like people who succeed but also fail,
which
right?
is fitting for Bowser Jr., right? Because like his Machiavellian plans are not going to work, but he is attempting it.
Yes. So we need other like villains that are, or not necessarily villains, but people who have aspirations, but are also sort of fine living in failure, right?
Yeah. I still don't entirely know what Kirby is doing here, but if Kirby is indeed right, like a god, like he has more sentience than any of us could hope for. Perhaps he is playing a longer con that like we just can't understand. Kirby works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, no, I will agree with that Kirby in fact does work in mysterious ways. What about Gruntilda from Banjo-Kazooie, the witch who steals Banjo's sister Tooie to steal her beauty?
Yeah, I think that's the perfect one, because for me Gruntilda is the main villain of those games, but is a B tier, B- tier villain, and so
totally.
like somebody that Bowser Jr. could totally get.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Is there anyone else that comes to mind for this party?
Since Kirby is kind of like a cosmic character, I wonder if he would be able to get Tatanga from Super Mario Land.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's throw Tatanga in here. Tatanga. And he can bring. I think this is definitely going to be like a potluck situation, right?
For sure, yeah.
No one person is going to be bringing all the dishes, and I think we also can't really expect Yoshi or Kirby to bring anything, because they're both going to be. I mean, they're nonstop eating machines, right? Like Kirby especially, he cannot bring food anywhere. He'll eat it on the way.
He can't help himself. Yoshi, I think, like, he doesn't even understand the social norms that, like, he should bring something. So he shows up with nothing, but is totally like, and everybody's fine with it. But he's like, if we need anything, I'll run and get it. Like, I'm happy to do it. I just didn't have the forethought to, like, buy something.
Yeah. No, this is good. And Ingo brings, like, some Lon milk. Tatanga brings, like, an alien dish. Gruntilda makes, like, a soup in a cauldron.
Dr. Jones brings Coca-Cola.
It's good. It's maybe a little bit beverage heavy, but like it's good. Do they have a good time? Like the last one sort of devolved into a positive experience, but like a drinking game, it got rowdy for
I
sure.
so I don't think they do. I think this is too weird of a group, and I think Bowser Jr. has aspirations of like
Yeah,
evilness, but he's not so bad at it that I think like
yeah,
everyone just ends up being like, "What was the deal with that Thanksgiving?"
yeah. And I think what really happens is Ingo, who has a history of breaking horses, right, for like breaking animals and bending them to his will. I think he's gonna leave with control over Kirby. I think Ingo and Kirby, or not Kirby, Yoshi, leave together, and then like they're buds, and like Bowser Jr. messed it up.
Yeah, I totally think so. I mean, Bowser Jr. fails for sure. There's no way that
Yeah.
like Bowser Jr. achieves what he wants out of this.
And Dr. Jones leaves after 25 minutes.
He goes missing. Nobody's quite sure.
Yeah, he's probably been kidnapped by aliens that have nothing to do with the Jenga. All right, that's a good one. Scenario number 3 is next. This one is a simple setup. This is Tingle's house in the country. Mark, we will now we have 4. We have 4 groups remaining. So group number 1. This is a small group, an intimate group. Donkey Kong, Tom Nook, and Baby Daisy.
So, in my head, when I think of Tingle's house in the country, what I'm thinking of is the end of Minority Report, where like the precogs are all in that cottage, and they're kind of like they have been secreted away from the world, and they are
Yeah.
like safe there, and that is kind of how I imagine the end game for Tingle is. And it's not a sad thing, but I think like just with like all the social pressure he feels, plus his
Totally.
obsession with mapping, I think it like he gets so his brain gets so like wired up, and that he needs this like removal from society, and just to like calm him, so he is in like he can find the balance in his life. And so that is what I'm imagining like Tingle after he is like taken up watercolors, where he is in
Yeah,
like a calmer place in his
100%.
life.
Well, and I mean, it's interesting that you say Endgame, because I am picturing Thanos's cabin on on this like far away, and it's maybe like it's like a bigger sort of like ranch style
Yeah.
home, and it's on a huge plot of land. You can't see the neighbors. It's so big there aren't even really fences. It's hard to tell where his driveway ends and like the road begins.
Yep.
So like
He has a couple of
it's a
golden
very
retrievers for sure.
100%. And I believe this Thanksgiving will be served outside on like picnic tables.
Yeah, it's beautiful where he is, because I think like it's funny that we both like precogs and Thanos. Like I think like that both of them at the when they
Yes.
were retired to this area, they had gone through so much, and I feel like
Yes.
Tingle, he has not lost his eccentricities. Like he has not lost the thing that makes him Tingle, the thing that makes him that every like the so lovable Nintendo's most beloved character. But I think that he has just like been able to he's just mellowed. Like he's been able to like harness that
Yeah.
and find and like put it into productive ways. Like he is no longer like he no longer has the demons of his father with him anymore, like he
Yeah,
has put all
100%.
of that behind him.
Right. There's no longer, and Tingle. There's always like a tension between, is what he's doing embarrassing or is it liberating? Like, are his obsessions something to be celebrated or something to be derided? Right.
Right.
It's a tough balance, but I think like another thing that Tingle is known for, in addition to like his mapping, is that he is constantly in search of rupees. Right. Like this is one of the things from the Japan only like DS games, is Tingle likes rupees. So I think part of him inviting Donkey Kong and inviting Tom Nook is that he is seeing these other people who have an insatiable desire for their in-game currency, right? Donkey Kong is just going after bananas. Tom Nook is a bell fiend. You can't stop him from collecting them. I'm not sure why Baby Daisy is there.
Is it possible? Because we don't really know much about Daisy, and so we
Sure.
know even less about the genesis of baby Daisy. And I'm wondering if it is possible that uh not exactly this, but if there is like a Daddy Warbucks slash Little Orphan Annie type scenario going on, like I wonder if
Interesting.
Tingle has like welcomed baby Daisy into his, like he's adopted her basically.
Sure. Okay, so this is well, but does she live at the at Tingle's house in the country, or is this him trying to like is this him basically auditioning himself for role of father to the new generation
So,
in the form of Baby
and
Daisy?
I'm totally okay with this, but does that mean that we need to come up with one or two like Nintendo characters who are the social workers in this situation, who
I think
are
so.
like figuring
I
out
think so.
whether
Yeah.
like Tingle. Okay, so I love this. So Tingle is in his home in the country. He's invited Donkey Kong and Tom Nook, who are his friends because they have a shared interest in currency.
Right.
And this whole scenario is being set up as, because the two social workers are coming with baby Daisy, and they're just making sure that like it's the final check to make sure that like Tingle's house is a home that it would be safe to place a baby with.
Yeah, I think that is 100% the scenario. Who represents the interests of the state in placing Baby Daisy as a ward of Tingle? I think it should be a team, right? There should be two of them. I don't think it
Hmm.
has to be a traditional team. I don't think it has to be like Mario and Luigi, but I think one of them. I think we need some wisdom and some perspective here. Has got to be Peppy, the rabbit from Star Fox.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Peppy. I would trust Peppy's judgment on something like this 100%.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think he needs to be there. I think he's done probably one too many of these cases. He's not going to be, blown away by any like showiness. Like, I think he's going to respond well to the nice, sort of like humble existence that Tingle has carved out for himself in the countryside. Who is the other social worker, Mark? I mean, I think can I pitch something bold?
Yeah,
Because I
please.
think you need if Peppy is the sort of like soft side, there then also needs to be someone who is hard nosed, who is not going to take any crap from anyone about anything. I think Samus Aran is the other social worker.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's really, really good.
So we have still all the room in the world to invite as many other people as possible. What other dimensions of Tingle's life does he need to highlight? Not just his, because right now we've got this his ability to accrue riches, right, like on display with having Donkey Kong and Tom Nook there. But there are other elements of his personality that he wants to highlight to impress Peppy and Samus Aran. What are those? What are those characteristics, and who does he invite to highlight them?
I mean, I think that Link and Tingle are really good friends because Tingle has
Yes.
always been there for Link when he needed him, whether Link knew it or not. And I feel like that's the marking of a really good friend. And
Yeah.
and so it's just another side of Tingle that you don't really get to see that often.
Yeah, Link is a solid all-around character witness, right? Like that's he 100%. That is perfect. Is there anyone else that we need to have at this thing? It's starting to balloon, like, right? We've got Tingle is going to be there,
He has
Link.
the space and the time. Oh,
That's
oh,
true.
oh, oh, what is one of the Able sisters, Sable, but basically I think we need someone who is like Tingle sartorial guide, so like they are friends through fashion.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, why not both? Why not Sable and Abel?
Yeah, perfect.
Sable and Mabel.
Mabel, yeah.
And also, like, you can't really invite Sable and not Mabel because Sable's not really comfortable talking to anyone. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like, her sister needs to talk for her. Also, let's also invite their other sister, Label. Like, they can all be there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they kind of have a messy interpersonal drama, but they'll keep the lid on for this Thanksgiving.
Right. They know to behave for this one. Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guests, and then Tingle himself. that's a pretty good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, throw a couple dogs in there and like that you're busy. You're gonna be busy all day.
Do you think it works out for Tingle? He makes a pretty good impression
I
here,
think
right?
he makes a really good impression. I have a lot of respect for Tingle. I think he's gonna make. I'm kind of jealous for baby Daisy. I think that's gonna be a great home to grow up in.
Yeah, it's gonna be supportive, right? Like she's gonna be free to pursue whatever weird
Yeah.
interest she has. He'll get involved. Like it's gonna be great. The next scenario number 4. This is Simon Belmont's castle in the midst of him suffering from Dracula's curse.
Yeah, so this is like either, between Castlevania and Castlevania 2, or it's after Castlevania 2, but you got the kind of bad ending where
Right,
he's eventually
where he
going
just
to
sort of languishes.
Yes. Eventually he's going to succumb to Dracula's curse. Maybe he killed Dracula, but one way or the other, like this dude is suffering, but he's also hosting Thanksgiving because that's what a Belmont does.
That's right. Belmonts are a classy folk. They understand the expectations put upon them. Mark, I think we're gonna have to fill a banquet hall here. So let's let's generate the random number. It is group number 3. The following 4 guests will be in attendance at Simon Belmont's Thanksgiving. Drago from Ring Fit Adventure,
Perfect.
King DDD from Kirby, Brittany from Pikmin 3, and Mayor Pauline of New Donk City. What is the dynamic here?
I think like for Drago, King DDD, and Mayor Pauline, they're probably like fairly used to castles, or like they're used to like finery, and so they I think probably know each other just from being lords and ladies.
Right, like they when they go to some like regality convention, like they know each other from those.
Yeah. Brittany, I'm not entirely sure.
No, this is a harder one. Because she is a botanist, I believe. Her training is in exploring other planets and in identifying things that you can eat. Also, she's way smaller than the rest of them, right? Everyone else is like at least normal human size. Drago is like 12 feet tall and like, a ton and a half of just like pure cut muscle. And Brittany is, maybe like 2 inches tall.
Do you think it's possible that like Simon has let's say that maybe he hasn't defeated Dracula yet. So he is calling a meeting of the minds to be like, "Hey, I'm suffering from this curse. So Brittany, maybe her like botany skills you can help like in a medicinal way." And so, but he doesn't even realize.
Perhaps to weaponize garlic in a more molecular sort of way, right? That she can go in and like break it down. And he's like, look, I know Dracula hates the garlic. I know he does. But I just like, there's no way for me to fuse it with my, with the ends of my whip. And she's like, oh, I'm small. I can get in there. I can really break it down. I can understand this. I can turn the garlic into juice and then like dip your whip.
Yeah.
Like, we
got
this.
And so maybe that's the point of this whole thing is he's gathering people and he's like, hey, like I need everybody's help. I need everybody. And maybe Simon Belmont doesn't even realize that it's Thanksgiving and everybody else is coming over assuming, hey, like he invited us on the 3rd Thursday in November, so it must be Thanksgiving. So they're going to get there and he's going to be like, oh crap, I have to like go out to get more ice or something. He's just going to be scrambling.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So let's approach this in 2 phases then, right? Let's figure out who else he invites to join his army against the forces of Dracula, and then who does he invite last minute when he realizes he scheduled this meeting for Thanksgiving and needs to actually throw a party. Okay. So other warriors. I know we've already included Link, but is it possible for us to include Link again?
I think Link is somebody who's going to be invited to a lot of Thanksgiving, so I think he's used to it.
He's a popular guy. I accidentally typed lunk in our document. I wouldn't normally share a typo on the podcast, but that one made me chuckle. So Link is an obvious no-brainer. This is a man who wields arrows of light. You got to get him on your team for this. Oh, speaking of, what about Pit from Kid Icarus?
Yeah, and Pit has that like mystical, right, like godlike element to him too, which would be super useful if you're going up against the forces of evil.
who else can we rope in here as part of that Simon Belmont was bringing on board?
So I wonder if we need the two kids from Zombie Ate My Neighbors, because
Sure.
they
Okay.
also have. Let me see. Let me look up their names. But if they have names, because they might not. Uh, but they
One
have
of them wears
experience.
3D glasses
Yeah,
and has blonde hair.
they have experience with the undead, which I think would be really useful, especially in like a modern context, because clearly like Simon is able to conjure these people from multiple dimensions in time.
Yeah, I mean he absolutely has to be able to do that. I'm also trying to remember
Zeke and
um,
Julie, by the way.
Zeke and Julie.
Yeah.
That's so good. Um, but yeah, I mean, look, you know for sure that there are zombies in sorry, Zeke and Julie.
Mm-hmm.
Zeke and Julie. Okay. There are for sure zombies in Dracula's army. So like they have experience taking them down. That's perfect. I'm trying to. I think we need to pick a tactician from a Fire Emblem game. This is maybe where we put Byleth in here. Just because like you're gonna have to coordinate a lot of different people with different kinds of skills. Like this is gonna be a full. Simon Belmont is good at whipping monsters in the face, but like he's not gonna draw up a good battle plan, right?
Right, right. And like Byleth would really be able to collaborate with Brittany, because Brittany I think has experience doing that as well, but on just like a
Yeah.
more like micro scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is a good the lineup here for who he invited to try to take down Dracula are Drago from Ring Fit Adventure, who I guess we didn't discuss why he would be effective
The
at
muscle.
fighting. He's got so much muscle.
Yeah, he's the tank.
King DDD, who is like a different kind of tank. Brittany from Pikmin 3. Mayor Pauline, who now this is interesting because she's not really a fighter necessarily. What is her role in this? Or is she someone? Is he someone? Or she someone that Simon Belmont invites last minute when he realizes, oh, I actually had to put on a party?
I think
Because
Pauline is the life of the party for sure, and I
she
think
brings the band.
yeah, yep, and I think Simon probably has like a thing for her too.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not? And then Link, Pit, Zeke, and Julie from Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and Byleth. Is Mayor Pauline like the only ingredient that Belmont needed to like recruit in order to turn this like war council into a party? Is she it?
I mean
Is she a one-person
that
party?
that feels right to me, and I think like Pauline like knows what's up. Like I think Simon calls her
Yeah,
and is like, "Hey, I'm in a real tough spot," and she's
I
like,
messed up.
"Don't
Yeah.
worry." Yeah, she's like, "Don't worry, I've got you. I'm going to be like 45 minutes late because I have to round some people up. But like I will be there, and whatever happens, like in an hour and a half, this will turn into a party." So she totally saves Simon Belmont's Thanksgiving for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Man, what a good. So, are they successful in putting together a elite strike task force to fight Dracula?
Absolutely. I mean, does Simon Belmont eventually succumb to his curse? Yes, because it takes too long
100%.
for him to do it, but they do defeat Dracula.
That's good. I'm glad for that. Okay, we are moving on now to scenario number 5, our final scenario for the evening. It's the evening while we record this, for the day, whenever you're listening to this. This is scenario number 5, Cranky and Wrinkly Kong's houseboat, which is docked in Long Beach, right next to the Queen Mary.
They're not supposed to be there, but they just like they found a spot and they were like, "This is where we're
That's right.
staying, and nobody's gonna tell us no."
Right. They are not paying rent on that slip. They saw, look, there was like a Russian submarine that was parked there for a while as like a little bit of like a museum piece. Maybe they just moved that. And while they were moving that out, the Kongs slid in and they were like, this is where we go now.
Yep.
The submarine is called a Scorpion. It's really cool and claustrophobic, and it made me scared to go inside. Okay, Mark, we have 2 groups remaining. Should this just be both groups, or should we still select randomly one of them?
Let's just go ahead and do both groups, and then we'll figure out a reason why they're all together, Cranky and Wrinklies.
Okay, so that means that the guest list for Cranky Kong and Wrinkly Kong's Thanksgiving on their houseboat which is, of course, docked in Long Beach. Next to the Queen Mary is Hestu from Breath of the Wild, Mr. Right from Link's Awakening, Linnebeck from The Phantom Hourglass, Agatha from Twilight Princess, Madame Couture from Triforce Heroes, Rusty from Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, the Bunny from Nintendo Badge Arcade, Captain Toad, Wart, and Fawful. Now, Mark, this is a big one. This is tough, and I think this is kind of just got to be a classic, like, Thanksgiving hodgepodge. That like there are no ulterior motives here. The Kongs are new to living in the Long Beach area, and so they sort of just reached out to everyone in their Rolodex in like the SoCal area, and these are the people that showed up.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a great time, because I think Cranky is like classic grandpa, where he puts on this face of being annoyed by everybody and that like he just wants to read his Louis L'Amour books, but that is not the case. He is so happy to see all of these people. He thinks that he like pretends that Hestu's annoying, but no, secretly he loves Hestu.
And the maracas and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think also Cranky can have a nice moment with Rusty from Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, because they are both retired at the thing that they were very good at. For Rusty, that was playing baseball. He wasn't really good at it. He was pretty good at it, and then washed out after like a year. But he and Cranky have this sort of shared experience of being good at something and then sort of retiring from it. I think Linnebeck would be good. This is the guy who owns the boat that you ride around in Phantom Hourglass. He can help them trick out the boat, or maybe they want to like take it out into like more open water. He can like help them sail it or pilot it, or whatever they end up doing. And then I think so Wrinkly is a woman of letters, right? Like she is a student. She's a librarian, maybe. Is that right?
Yeah, or teacher, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, teacher makes more sense. I think that puts her like right in line with Mr. Right, who his only characteristic really is having an ongoing pen palmanship with a goat pretending to be a woman. And then also I think Agatha, who is she's the bug girl from Twilight Princess, but that means that she's also very like carefully studied bugs, so I think that she would get along with Wrinkly as well. And then ditto Madame Couture, who is a student of fashion, who would be able to connect with Wrinkly as well. It seems like they each have a couple different people they can relate to here.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I'm just imagining, yeah, like, they're out on the slip, they're on the houseboat, it kind of spills out onto the dock, maybe there's like grass in front of it. They're just kind of like having a good time. A lot of these characters, like you were saying, are kind of like older or a little bit like forgotten, like Wart. And so I think they do kind of have a lot in common in spirit, even if like the specifics are not. I just imagine, like a little bit of music playing from the boat. Everybody's out on the lawn. It's like one of those nice like LA low 60 like afternoons. That maybe they're listening to the Bodyguard soundtrack, because that's like the last movie that Cranky and Wrinkly saw in theaters before they were like, I'm not paying that much money to go see movies anymore.
Right. Yeah, and I think so Captain Toad is here, which means that there has to be like some element of adventure, like some little like field trip as part of it. I think they just kick on over to the Queen Mary. They do tours.
Yeah, for sure.
Every day. Like, so, and Captain Toad can like have like, there's a tour guide for sure, but Captain Toad has all this like extra information, right?
Also, maybe
he can't help but add.
Maybe he's a little bit scared because the Queen Mary can be a little spooky at times.
Absolutely. Yeah. And okay, how the only two characters that we don't have like quite worked into this yet are the Bunny from Nintendo Badge Arcade and Fawful.
I think the Bunny and Rusty are probably a couple.
Okay, yeah.
So I think like Cranky knows Rusty, and then Bunny's just coming along because like it's a package deal.
Right. Well, and like Bunny and Rusty both have experience like trying to. It's again like sort of a hustle mentality. but almost more based in like the love of the hustle and not
Mhm.
really like pursuit of money, right?
Right.
And then Fawful, I don't know. I can't really wrap my head around Fawful. He's weird.
You'll
Fawful's
have to
weird.
remind me, who is Fawful again?
Fawful is a he's from the Mario and Luigi games. He is a villain. He laughs a lot. He says, "I have chortles." He's green. He's got like
Oh, I'm looking at a picture of him.
squiggly
Yeah.
glasses. Yeah,
He has like the glasses and like swirls in
with
the
a
eyes to
spiral.
like
Yeah.
yes, that way you know he's insane. Doesn't really have a neck. Yeah, I actually just wonder if because he's like one of those minor villains where
Yep.
like I guess I don't know the game that well, but just looking at him where it's like the threat is not that real. Like, he's not that dangerous. And so it makes sense to me that he would run into Cranky somewhere and Cranky would see through that and just be like, I know that like inside you're like a good person. You also put up this front just like me. So like
In the
I know-
original Donkey Kong, when I was the villain. Yeah, I think that and Wart and Fawful, that like that's why the three of them know each other, is because they were all like villains together. They all came up at the same time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were all doing villain clubs at the same time and like saw a lot of each other's villain open mics. So like yeah, they know each other from way back. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But like they're happy to spend time
And
together.
Wrinkly's like, just invite him. And Cranky's like, look, you're not going to know anybody. Wart might show up, but other than that, you're not going to know anybody. But we're still going to have a good time.
Yeah. Okay. This is great. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone that we're missing here that needs to be in attendance here? I think this may be the perfect assemblage of people here.
Yeah, weirdly, I think you're right.
All right, perfect. So just to review, at Cranky and Wrinkly Kong's houseboat, which is docked in Long Beach, right next to the Queen Mary, it's Hestu, Mr. Right, Lindebeck, Agatha, Madame Couture, Rusty, the Bunny, Captain Toad, Wart, and Fawful. Mark, let's close this on out. That was super fun, but obviously we didn't go through every conceivable Nintendo family Thanksgiving. I don't think we said the word Mario once. So maybe a weird omission. But if you have your own fantastic Mario Thanksgiving scenarios to pop our way, look, there's still a week before Thanksgiving. You can email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like this episode, please share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.
Have you ever encountered an unexplained hairy bipedal hominid in the woods?
Have you received telepathic messages from an unidentified aerial phenomenon?
If so, then you need to listen to Bigfoot Collectors Club. I'm Michael McMillan.
And I'm Bryce Johnson.
And together with super producer
Riley Bray,
we make up the Bigfoot Collectors Club.
That's right. Every week we talk to actors, comedians, writers, and paranormal experts about their personal paranormal histories and share stories of high strangeness.
Like the time when we talked to Craig Ferguson about the Loch Ness Monster and when a sea witch told him he had raven magic.
Or the time I asked Pitch Perfect's Anna Camp her opinion on cattle mutilations. Past guests have included Rachel Bloom, Jen Kirkman, Paul F. Tompkins, Bobcat Goldthwait, and more.
So if you've ever been abducted alongside 5 reindeer by an alien with drills for hands or witnessed Bigfoot crawl out of an interdimensional portal,
Don't laugh, happens all the time.
then check out Bigfoot Collectors Club on Campfire Media or wherever you get your podcasts.
Bigfoot Collectors Club. You're here to believe us.
wait, is that how it goes?
Campfire.